Welcome to the Focus, Freedom, and Flow podcast. I'm your co host, Jackson Ferguson, joined by professional basketball player and co host, Axel Louisan. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Charles Bell, a mental performance coach for the Division One women's basketball team at Morgan State University in Baltimore. Together, we'll dive into his journey, the powerful and subtle work of mental performance coaching and sports psychology, what truly helps athletes grow and thrive, and how to bring mental training into a whole team environment. So, Charles, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're truly grateful.
Thank you for having me.
Maybe for the people listening in the audience, can you say a little bit more about what you do today? What's your work about?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm the mental performance coach for Morgan State University's women's basketball team. So what I do there, ultimately, first things first is I do a lot of team mental performance sessions. So with that, the goal of that, the objective is just to get them to, be more cohesive as a team and to be able to optimize their performance as a whole. This coaching staff is all of our first year coming in. So about half of the girls were here last year with another coach, and then the other half are new girls coming in. So really getting people to, understand each other. The girls understanding how to play together, the coaching staff, understanding how to coach together, and then with those two things, getting us to be able to interact with one another, right, and understand each other. And then I do a lot of individual mental performance sessions. So that's more mastery things, more specific to what that athlete needs. So whether that's confidence, whether that's leadership development, emotional regulation, whatever it is for them to feel like they are able to improve and be a better basketball player themselves. And then I also am the point of contact for the athletic trainer. So I work a lot. There's nutrition, like I said, athletic training, on the floor, off the floor, academics, just being able to use what I know about mental performance and being able to enhance whatever I can, as much as I can.
Nice. And could you share your personal journey and what led you to sport and performance psychology?
Yeah, so growing up, Shaq was my favorite player, so I always wanted to be like Shaq. I emulated myself after him. I didn't understand genetics at the time, so Shaq's about 7 foot plus. My mom is 5'5", my dad is 5'11", so I luckily got the 6 foot, right? So I didn't really understand that. And then basketball is very expensive, so my family wasn't able to keep up with me going to those camps and everything like that. So when I got to high school, I wanted to be a part of some type of team. What you see on TV. I wanted to be a part of a winning culture. I was in gym playing basketball, and the track coach came up to me and was like, "The way you play basketball, you could be a really good shot putter. And if anybody doesn't know what shot put is, it's a track and field event. It's a field event, and think of like a 12 to 15 pound like metal ball. You put it on your neck like this, and you gotta put it as far as you can." Um, and I was like, all right, yeah, bet. So I went and transferred over to psychology, and the director at my undergrad told me about sports psychology, and I asked her what that was. And she just simply said, "Do you like basketball?" I was like, yes. She was like, think about Derrick Rose. She was like, you could help somebody like Derrick Rose come back from that injury and get back to MVP caliber. And that sold me on sports psychology. And that's the only reason why I got in it, because I was an athlete who was told I couldn't afford to get back. So I decided, well, if I can help my people like me who can't afford it, that will mean the world to me. So that's the reason that I'm doing what I do, and yeah, I'm still going, and that's why I care so much about working with injury rehabilitation as well.
That's beautiful because it resonates with me because I was also injured a lot. I'm still injured at the moment. I ruptured my Achilles, and what I have to go through just to get back on the court and then just to try to be on the same level as I was before and all the challenges. So I truly understand your motivation for performance psychology. And I want to ask you, what have you learned over the years that you would especially like to share with an athlete who has gone through a serious injury? What did you learn?
Who's been through a serious injury? I think the biggest thing. that I've learned and that I try to teach athletes is no matter how old you are, and it's a conversation that no athlete wants to have, right? But as an athlete who didn't have to have that conversation, it got taken from me. I tell people when I work with people, I look at every athlete like you're a business, right? You are a business, you. So it doesn't matter how good you can put the ball in the hoop, how far you can kick the ball, how far you can throw a ball, how good you can hit a hockey puck. It doesn't like whatever it is, how fast you can run, right? None of that matters, right? I mean, it matters in the moment, but when it's all said and done, what matters is your name good? How many former athletes do you see in the pub like in the news for negativity? Or even when they retire, people are happy they're gone, right? So I like to tell athletes all the time, like while you are perfecting your craft, while you are going out there being an elite athlete, on the downtime that you do have, figure out what you love, figure out your passion outside of sport, because no matter who you are, one day that ball is gonna stop falling. That ball's not gonna dribble no more. That ball's not gonna go into the end zone, right? So like enjoy your career because you should. You put so many hours into it. But if you if the ball stops bouncing tomorrow, what are you gonna do? And that's why a lot of athletes, when they get hurt seriously, they have like this depression because they don't know what they're gonna do next. And that should never be. I wish it wasn't like that. I know why it's like that because it's like like it's been a job since you were 7 years old. That's what you've known. And at the end of the day, networking is important, right? You might not play your sport again, but can you get into coaching? Can you get into podcasting? Can you get into broadcasting? Can you get into marketing, whatever the case is? So always making sure your name is good. So, you might average 30 points a game, but off of that court, do coaches want to come shake your hand? Do people want to talk to you about like making your brand bigger? That type of stuff. Like, and it's not really sports psychology. It's not really mental performance. That's just really like Charles just talking as a human being, right? But when I'm working with my athletes, I do a lot of the transition stuff. Even if, you're not ready to transition, I have those real conversations because we're not having them enough. And depending on your resources, you never know. So when I do mental performance, I always prepare my athletes for the worst, but have them, you know, reaching and preparing for the best, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've read recently something about a psychology um thing that where you prepare for the worst. I think they used that when like back in the day for the Romans when they were the Greeks and the Romans when they were fighting each other for the Olympics, something like that. I've read that recently, and so they were preparing for the worst the day before, the night before, and it allows them to be fearless because they already like vision the worst case scenario. So that makes sense what you said, and I think it's also good. But like you said, no one's wants to talk about. But at some point, like the sport, whatever you do, is gonna stop. And if you're unlucky, I would say injuries can happen, and it can stop like all of a sudden. And you have to be ready for that because, like you said, you can go through depression, you can go through some moment like this. So yeah, preparing for the worst makes really sense.
And maybe to piggyback on that, also like good example of the Romans and the Greek. That's beautiful where you're talking about like you're just helping as a human being, but then like and also like Axel said, does that also help performance in sports? Like having that mindset that you're more than just your sport, you prepare for after sport. Does that even help during sport and the performance they do in sports?
I would say yeah, because I think it comes down to, you have to know what you value, right? What you believe in. A lot of people don't know that. If I say, hey, like what do you value? Like what do you stand 10 toes on? Like what is your value and belief system that is nobody can move you off of that, right? Like you will argue to the face of the world for that, right? And a lot of athletes don't know because they know their sport. if you know what you value, you know what you believe in, a lot of times people think I could be at the food kitchen helping people. I could be a counselor, I could be a teacher, I could be a police officer, right? But I know that my purpose is helping people and I know that I love sports. And I put those two things together. So I was creative enough to find how when I go to work, all the frustrating stuff that I go through every single day, that one athlete who has that like light on moment makes it all worth it because that's what I'm doing it for. So when I'm working with athletes and I'm saying you're a business and I'm saying, hey, like, you know, what do you do this for? Like, what's your why? Right? Like not the sport, but in general. So when you know what you believe in and you're bigger than your sport, right? That's the motivation. When I don't want to get up and go to practice at 6 a.m., I'm looking at I'm bigger than my sport. Going to this practice at 6 a.m. is gonna lead me to where I need to be in the end game, right? So, but like everybody, you have to do the work for that, right? I can teach it to you. I can talk to you all day about it, talk your ear off. But if you're not practicing it and you're not trying to have that type of mindset, it may not work for you. But I will say that the athletes that I have worked with that embody that and do the work for it, you do see a major difference in their performance because they're being their authentic self versus who they think they have to be. Because the sport doesn't define you. You define the sport. And I think once athletes kind of get that in their head, that's when you see athletes being more free. They find the love for their game again. And, they look at, you know, an Achilles tear, a ACL tear, a meniscus tear. Instead of them looking at like a setback, they're looking at it like, hey, this is another opportunity for me to show who I am. Like, I'm built for this. Like at the end of the day, Kobe Bryant came back and was technically in better shape than he was after Achilles. Kevin Durant came back after Achilles, still playing high value basketball. You know what I'm saying? So there's people that have come back from these injuries. You're gonna have your Derrick Roses, but you have a lot of people who've come back from these injuries and have been either the same player or even better because of the mentality they had going into it of just like you chasing a championship when you're in injury rehabilitation, you're chasing getting back on that court the same way. And it's just the way you attack it. And everybody has different paths and different things going on, different complications, but I do believe that your mindset going into a thing is going to dictate how you come out of it.
Yeah, and probably also relieving stress and anxiety. Because if like sports define you 100%, then there's so much pressure to perform. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. And yeah, does it
Yeah.
also relieve some kind of stress on the
Yeah,
players,
yeah.
like you said? Yeah.
Yeah, and just so you know, like the more stressed out you are, the higher levels of cortisol you're going to have going through your body. And cortisol actually slows down your healing process.
Mm,
So just your mindset, because a
mm,
lot of people think things happen to me and I feel some type of way about it. That's not really how it goes. Things happen, you have a thought about it, and your thought is what drives your emotions and reactions. So we can all go through the same thing, right? We can all,
exactly.
let's say the fire alarm goes off. We all go through the same thing. The three of us have different thoughts about it. One of us might just get up, go out the door, do what we got to do. Somebody else might suck their teeth, roll their eyes, and then the other person might slam their computer down and throw a fit. Three different reactions, three different emotions. The same event happened to us, but it's because of how we're thinking about it. So if you're going through injury rehabilitation and you're thinking about how painful it is, and you're thinking about how tedious it is, and you're thinking about how I'm not doing what I love, you're going to have some of those negative emotions and you're probably going to have stress. And then you're wondering why you're not getting to where you want to go in your injury process. But the more stressed you are, the slower your healing is going to be. And sometimes the stress makes it to where it doesn't heal. So I'm not saying that you're not going to have ups and downs. Rehab is going to have ups and downs. But if you're able to have a productive mindset, okay, I had a down day today, but what can I do to bounce back tomorrow, right? So now tomorrow you might come back tomorrow and be twice as good or three times as good as you were the day before. And a lot of times people don't realize that. And that's why you see some people like Lonzo Ball, for example, going through what he went through 2 years of knee stuff. He was very stressed though, pressure, fame, all those things. So it all goes hand in hand. Like I said, your mindset going into something can definitely dictate how you come out, and it will relieve some stress, some, not all of it, but some.
Yeah, yeah. And I, for me, as a mindfulness meditation instructor, I mean, you hit it on the head. That's exactly it. Like the thoughts that go through your mind are gonna generate the emotions and then the actions. But that's not easy. Of my experience, it's not that easy to work with the people to have them see those thoughts and then try to create new thought patterns. So maybe do you mind sharing a little bit how you work on that with the athletes?
Yeah, I have this is no this isn't a Charles like exclusive, but there's a technique that I use with a lot of athletes, especially collegiate athletes. It's a technique called A.I.R.
Okay.
So A.I.R, it stands for, the A is aware. So okay, I'm aware. So if you're talking about like mindfulness, right? I'm aware that I'm having a negative thought process, or I'm aware that my thoughts are not working for me. You have to have self-awareness for that though.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm aware in this moment, my thoughts are not working for me. The I is interrupt. So that is you doing
Ah,
something to interrupt that thought process. So some people, if they're on the, like, if you're in the game, some people might clap their hands. Some people might, they have like a wristband on. They might like pop their wristband. Some people might, blink. Some people might say something to themselves. You know what I'm saying? Some people might tie their shoe. It just depends on where you are and what you can do. And it's very individualized. But
mhm,
interrupt is just interrupting that train of
yep.
thought. R is then replace. So now you're replacing it with a statement that will be more productive for you. So not necessarily like I have to have the opposite thought, right? But like for example, if I turn the ball over and I'm sitting there saying, "Man, I suck," and I realize I'm having that negative thought process, I might clap my hands and then I'll tell myself, "Get back on defense." So like
Mm,
that me telling myself that is telling me where to um focus my attention now to keep myself in the game. Or you know, I might tell myself, it's one turnover. I was trying to make a play. I got the next one, right? Or, okay, I'm gonna get it back on defense.
mm,
Or I gotta be there for my team. It just depends on who you are. There's no one
mm,
like real way, but that really resonates with my athletes when I work with them, trying to get them to replace those thoughts. But when I do offer that technique, what I'll end up doing is I'll end up going to whatever sport they play. I'll go to their playing field or their court, and I'll actually make them practice it. So like if I have a person who's saying they're right-handed and they can't make a left-handed layup, or they feel like they suck at free throws. What I'll do is we'll go to the free throw line and I will literally say a negative thought to them before they shoot their free throw. I'll make them do their interrupt technique and I'll make them out loud say a thought or say something that is more productive. And then I'll have them shoot the free throw. So I'll actually have them practice it in real time because I can't always trust that they're going to go practice it on their own. So it's just different ways about going about it.
awesome. Thanks. Yeah, that's cool. And maybe if we go back to the sports psychology and your
Mhm.
experience, like what are other of the big challenges that you see athletes facing nowadays?
I think NIL is a big thing. NIL
Yep.
is a big thing.
What's
So
NIL?
in America, that stands for name, image, likeness. So basically, in college, um, for a long time, college students weren't able to get paid.
Mm,
Now they're able to get paid for, merchandise. They're able to get like endorsement deals, stuff like that. So I think it puts a lot of pressure on athletes when they go into college because they're trying to chase NIL money. They're trying to
uh,
chase money versus how do I grow my game, right? So that's one thing. I think, the transition thing, right? Like going into college, going from living with your parents and now you're on campus, you have to do all these classes. And then at a certain point, sport become turns from I love doing this to I have to do this, right? And then navigating relationships, navigating, you know, people maybe in your pocket, things like that. I also think pressure is a big thing. I think eating disorders are a big thing for athletes that they face as well. Um, and I think there's a lot of performance anxiety. A lot of athletes are perfectionists and they're hard on themselves, and
Mhm.
they put more pressure on themselves than is actually there. And then it gets even more when you get into the professional athletes, right? Like now you got fame, like you got going from I could do whatever I wanted to, now there's a camera in my face all the time.
I heard you talked about eating disorders, pressure pro players put on themselves, and then the sound started.
The fame, you're dealing with the fame, you're dealing with, people maybe in your pocket, dealing with fake friends in a sense. Also, just, I think the last thing I said was ultimately, you know, if those athletes are able to admit that, and they're able to say like, hey, I'm struggling with this, those are all things that mental performance coaches can help with, right? Because those things all can impact your performance. And I just think that a lot of it is, you know, there's this pressure that I have to do this because this person's telling me I'm not doing this. That person's me telling me I'm doing too much. Who do I listen to? How do I filter the noise? And then don't even get started into the sports betting thing too. So like that's a whole nother thing that I don't want to get into. But
Mm.
all the things that they suffer with,
Okay.
we can help
Mhm.
as a mental performance coach in a way, right? We can't help all things like eating disorders. We can't, you know, necessarily help with that, but we can still work with an athlete and then have them work with, somebody who is licensed to do so.
And how difficult is it? You talked about building culture. So
Mhm.
is part of the picture culture that you're building is to have the players admitting when they're facing a problem? Because that's one of the things beautiful I see in the NBA. It feels like now these guys are um, getting vulnerable. They're talking about their issues. It started with DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Love,
Mhm.
and I love the way the direction it's going. And like in college, I bet it's still not easy for these young people to share their struggles. And so, are you building that into the culture?
Yeah, I'm trying to build it into the culture. I think for my specific situation, it's building the awareness that things are actually happening because I think a lot of people get so accustomed to normalizing what they're struggling with,
Mm,
normalizing trauma, so that when you talk to them, they don't even really realize that they're going through something very, very traumatic or very deep, right? So I think the first thing I try to do is build the awareness, like help them understand like it's okay to not be okay with what's going on right now. And to kind of show them what the normal is and what abnormal is. And then from there, what I do is I observe a lot, so I kind of just go up to a person and say like, "Hey, I've observed this. Like, is everything good?" And once they realize that they're not faking the funk enough, then they'll kind of open up, right? But I have definitely spent all season preaching to my team about help seeking, about like, hey, when you need help, speak up. Because we don't know what we don't know. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. So that is a big part of the culture for sure.
Yeah, that leads me to this question. What would you like to share with a young athlete who truly wants to excel in their sport, in your
A
opinion?
young athlete that truly wants to excel in their sport, I think the biggest thing I would want to share with that person is use your resources. Well, one, know your resources, and then two, use your resources. And what I mean by that is, know your value, know your worth. Don't get like scared into doing something you don't want to do. Don't get persuaded because you feel like you owe a person like be knowledgeable outside of your sport. Like be knowledgeable about what's right, what's wrong, what's legal, what's not legal. That's number one. And then also like, you know, chase your passion, man. Like if that sport becomes, you know, too much or whatever. Like if you have to step away, you got to step away. But I think ultimately for a young athlete to excel, one is know your resources and use them. Two, you got to still do well in school because at the end of the day, if you're not doing well in school, you're not eligible to play, right? And then three, I think, take care of your mental health. And I'm not necessarily saying just use a mental performance coach, but like use a counselor, use a mental performance coach. Like do the extra things. Like do what you probably don't want to do, and you're gonna get the benefits that you want to see in the long run. If you want to do it long term, for sure.
Yeah, and I really thank you for that, for what you said, because it's so important for young athletes who wants to excel and sometimes they feel lost. And I would also add, at the end of the day, we're supposed to have fun. You know, it's a game, and sometimes we get caught up like, oh, there's pressure. I want to reach the NBA, the EuroLeague, the blah blah blah, NIL. Yeah, you can still like pursue this, but have fun in it. Like, the fun is the most important thing in sport. And even if it's hard, even if it's tough, if there is obstacles, we need. I mean, we need to like have a perspective where we find fun in it. So really, thank you for what you said.
You gotta have a reason why. You gotta have a reason why you want to excel. Not because your mom told you to, your dad told you to, or it looks cool. You gotta know why you want to excel. And if you know why, then you're able to, continue to have fun even through the tough times.
Coming back to the culture and
Hmm.
what you do with the team, I think if I understand, you work with the
Yep.
coaches a lot, and so maybe I think that's very important also. So do you mind sharing a little bit of about how that goes and what you guys
Yeah,
work on
like
with the
how I kind of made
coaches?
my name in this field was actually me doing a lot of work with coaches. So, what I do with coaches is I work with them on how to establish their culture. So I do a lot of leadership um philosophies with them. Like, what's your philosophy behind how you lead a team, how you coach a team? What is the culture supposed to look like here? Like being able to sit all the coaches down and have them to agree to what the culture is supposed to be here. If you could put the culture in 5 words or whatever the case is, like what does it entail, right? And then also teaching coaches how to correctly praise athletes. Good job is not praising an athlete. That was a great shot is not praising an athlete. If I have an athlete who was taking a lot of bad shots and now they're taking good shots, being able to give effective praise is important. So we're really good at giving constructive criticism, right? We're really good at giving feedback when a person doesn't do something correctly, right? Why aren't so the same way we highlight what they did wrong or how they did it wrong, we can do the same thing with our praise, right? So if a person is, following through with their shot now, if a person is, making sure they have the right body positioning when they, take a shot or make a pass or whatever the case is, we can highlight that because how many times do people stumble into success? Coaches say, yeah, keep doing that. And the athlete doesn't know what they did. It was just like it
Mm-hmm.
happened one time.
Mm-hmm.
If we highlight it, it allows them to know that one, my coach is really watching, right? They're actually watching. Two, it's authentic. And then three, it helps them maintain that winning streak. It helps them do it again and again and again and again. So instead of an empty good job, right, you're actually praising your athletes. And then with that, it helps you create a motivational climate. So nobody can motivate a person, right? You can create conditions that allow people to be motivated, right? We motivate ourselves, but conditions motivate people, right? So are you the type of person that's giving rewards, right? Are you the type of person that is helping people understand it's about improvement versus the results? Are you a person helping people figure out, you know, what their values are, and then you're placing them in position based on their values to make them succeed, right? Are you finding out what people inherently like to do? Like those things actually matter. So when coaches create an environment in practice at the games Is that environment conducive to make people be motivated more times than not to do what they need to do, right? So that's what I do a lot with the coaches, just helping them be able to lead in a sense to help their athletes want to get better. They want to be there. They want to win because of the environment that they're setting. And then also being able to get them to understand how to communicate with their athletes as well, because you always have generational gaps. So a lot of times they think that the way they communicate is effective, but then when we work together, they realize it's not that effective when they're dealing with athletes.
Is there like an experience where you've seen a coach shift in a coach that really changed the culture? Like, do you have a story or something that you saw, you experienced that happened, that there really a change in the coach that then changed the whole culture? Because that's also, it seems like sometimes of my experience, there's a disconnect. Like the coaches think, okay, there's the X's and O's, there's a drill, and then it's all up to the players
Mhm.
to do the job. But so I love talking about conditions. I think that's really powerful. So have you experienced some big shifts like that?
Yeah, man. When I worked with back in 2024, I worked with a Division II track and field team, men's and women's. Kind of similar situation, new coaches coming into a bunch of athletes that, were already there. And it was kind of difficult for them. And after our indoor season, going into outdoor season, I had the same conversation about, creating their environment. And the coaches were kind of afraid to be their authentic selves because they didn't want to. They felt like if they were their authentic selves, like athletes would complain or athletes would quit or whatever the case is. And I think just going out and you know things that they did to change were like making practice more competitive, right? Like track and field is an individual team sport at the collegiate level. So making it more competitive to where, in practice, you're instead of we're jumping together, we're jumping against each other. We made it more event like, more like if we're going to an actual track and field event, we made it more like we started taking times, taking scores, like we started doing it that way. And then, the coaches were very much like business, 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 business. But then, when the athletes did well, you know, they were playing music. The head coach went out there and was dancing with them. Like I went out there and I did sled pulls with them. Like the coaches started doing the workouts with them, started having a little more fun and joking with them and being a little more open with them. And you seen the athletes, you seen them get more serious because now I want to jump for you. I want to run for you.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
now it's like
yeah, yeah,
it's more than you're coaching me. A lot of these
yeah,
athletes are looking for a father or mother figure. A lot of them, right? So
yeah.
now that you're being authentic with me, and I feel like we have a personal connection, like a person to person connection. Now I'm more willing to hear what you're saying to me. Now, when you give me feedback, I know you're not just riding me. I know that that's your passion talking. But if I don't know you as a person, you're just my coach. I'm gonna roll my eyes when you talk to me that way, you know? And a lot of it has to do with, we all as human beings have three psychological needs that we need to thrive, right? So you have autonomy, which is freedom. You feel like you have a little bit of freedom to do what you need to do. Competence, do I know what I'm doing? And relatedness, do I have a personal connection? So being able also to give selective autonomy, right? We have two drills we got to do. I'm going to let y'all choose which one we do first. That's what the coaches, what the track and field team would do. Now you're tricking them into believing that they're choosing how the day is going, even though you already know they're doing both, but you're giving them a choice now. So now they feel like they're being heard. And when they would say like we're gonna do this, they would give the explanation why up front because now the athlete's not gonna ask why are we doing this. You're already given the purpose, right? So once we did that, I will tell you we went on to win a conference championship, and I will tell you we did that and only scored 1 point in the sprints. It's track and field. We didn't score any points on the track. So to show the dedication and commitment that they had and them to rally around each other to make up for a lot of points that were missed. that goes to show you like those coaches set an environment there that allowed them to win a championship versus being in third place in indoor. Same team, you know. So I
Mhm.
do think that it was a big shift, and it
Wow.
started with the coaches just going out there being more personable and just being themselves.
I have a question for you, more personal.
Hmm?
Why do you do what you do? I want to know like what's your motivation, what gives you the energy to get up every morning and do this work for the athletes, for the coaches, for the sport, for yourself. I want to know like what's your motivation.
Yeah, I mean, it changed. It's changed from why I originally got into it. I'll say, at some point, I know it's gonna be on the podcast, so give you a little bit of controversial stuff here. There in the field of mental performance, especially in America. Well, it's not just America because it's international, right? But ASP, applied. It's the Association for Applied Sports Psychology. That's like our governing body. Um, I would say that there's a lot of gatekeeping in our field, right? A lot of people, they get to a position and they don't want to share how they got there. They don't want to share any of that stuff. I don't know if it's because of, you know, I don't want to share that so nobody's coming for my spot. I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not gonna put any intent on people, but I'm gonna call it like it is. There's gatekeeping. And my motivation at this point is to be, you know, a voice for the voiceless in the sense of like I was that guy that was asking people, "Hey, like what are things that I can do? Like I don't want a handout. I want a roadmap and I'll navigate it myself." And people just said, "Stay the course." You know, I don't really have much to tell you. And I look back at it, and people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time, and I take the time out to just talk to people and instill, confidence in people, or tell people the real. And my motivation is to be able to have a platform one day where gatekeeping is not allowed, right? Like when you come and you talk to Charles like about anything mental performance, I'm not hiding anything from you because I can sit here and I can tell you everything that I do. You're not going to do it like I do it. We're not going to make our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches the same. We're not going to cut our bread the same. We don't put our socks on the same.
Mhm.
I can give you step by step what to do, but you're going to put your own flair into it, right? And if I do good work, people are going to always come back to see me. So my motivation is to be able to help that boy or girl that looks like me or that's struggling or doesn't have the funds or whatever the case is, to let them know like your adversities, they make you who you are, man. Like don't give up because 100 people hung the phone up in your face. Like you're gonna make it on your own. You guys just stay your course no matter what it is. Every move you make is a chess move. You might not feel like it's taking you anywhere, but is this move going to get me to where I want to go? And ultimately, I want to be able to provide affordable, if not free, services to the black men and women, adolescents here in America because we're not able to afford these resources, and I want to be able to give the resources to people, especially back in my hometown of Buffalo, New York. There's a lot of talent there, but 8 high schools share one football field, like things like that. We lack resources. So I want to be able to give those resources. So when I get up in the morning and I know I'm gonna go in, and some days I have bad days, some days I have terrible days, I always think about I can be that person that can help make a change. I don't think that I'm ever gonna be the biggest name. I think I'm gonna be the bridge. I'm gonna be the reason why we get there. So, the Peace Bridge, which was a big part of the Underground Railroad when it came down to slavery, right? Getting freed slaves, right? That's in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, right? It was the bridge, right? We don't take credit for freeing slaves, but we have that bridge there to help free them. So I'm the first mental performance coach at my school. I work at a historically black college. I want to make all the historically black colleges say we need a mental performance coach. Like that's what I want to do. I want to be in the textbook. I want to revolutionize what this is. I want to make the person that feels like they can't do it, that feels like they're just a number in the back of the room. I want them to feel like they can be on the stage one day. And that's really why I do what I do. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I'm nobody special, but I can make somebody else feel special. I can make that person behind me feel like they can be better than me and that they can be whoever they want to be. So that's really my motivation behind this, outside of helping the athletes, right? But that's really my motivation behind it for sure.
Thank you so much. Really, I appreciate because I feel I honestly have the same energy and motivation. Like I kind of see the same thing a little bit here in Switzerland. Like in the mental training game, mental health game, we're not connecting enough. And I think people, they want their own business, they want to make their money, and I totally agree. And to add on to that, I also feel, I mean, suffering is part of life.
Hmm.
Like we're all gonna have struggles. So there's room for everyone with that energy, with that aspiration to help,
Hmm.
to have clients and people to help because it's part of life and it will always be part of life. So man, I really appreciate. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. And I mean, you already shared a lot of
Yeah.
wisdom, but is there anything else on your mind, on your heart that you like to share to the audience?
Um, I mean, first, thank you for reaching out, man. Thank you for having me. You didn't have to, so I definitely appreciate you having me and just chopping it up with me and just having a great conversation. And I mean, the only thing I have to say, one, I want to address any parents that are watching, parents of athletes that
Mhm.
are watching, right? Mental performance is not just done by mental performance coaches. It should be instilled with the coaches and at home, right? So parents have some, like, I want to challenge all parents to have some self-awareness of, are you adding pressure to your child's life? Are you adding pressure to their performance, right? When your kid comes home, are you always talking about what they didn't do well? Those things matter when it comes to mental, like the mental of a child, right? Are you showing up to games even though your kid is losing, right? Like, do you have the same energy every single game? Those things really, really do matter, right? And having those real conversations about how can you have your kid persevere when they're not the star player, when they're not doing as well as they could do. As a parent, that stuff is just as important, because if they work with a mental performance coach, you come pay us, and then they go home and you're undoing everything that we're doing, you're not going to see any results. I'm not saying that it's any parent's fault, but I do challenge any parent that has watched all the way through, that got to this point, you know, are you self aware enough to say, am I pushing my kid to be great, or am I pushing them away? So that's just something I will say to the parents. And then last but not least, to anybody watching, no matter what you're doing, just know, I might not know you, but just know I believe that you're able to do whatever you put your mind to. You just have to stay your course and network and utilize the people around you, and just make sure you keep good company, you know. And if you're realizing that something you're doing is not something you love, find out what you love and do that, because if you do what you love, the money will come. But everybody out there, like your shirt says, you do matter. Don't let anybody tell you you don't. And don't let nobody ever tell you what you can't do. Always talk about what you will do. And that's all I got.
Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing up the parents because that's so important. I
Mhm.
heard there's an I want to share this story because it resonated really to me and I have kids and I think about it a lot. I heard an interview with Kobe Bryant
Mhm.
and he was saying like when he was 11 growing up in Philly, he went to a summer camp and he scored 0 points.
Mhm.
He was horrible. And his dad was there and he said, "If you score 0 or 60 a game, I don't care. I still love you." And Kobe was like, "That's exactly what I need to hear."
Yeah.
And so I have the confidence. I know my dad loves me, whatever, but hell no, I'm not scoring 0 anymore. I'm going to score 60.
Right.
So he needed just that foundation of love. And I think in our culture, it's still like we need to put pressure on our kids, but Kobe's dad, he just said, "I love you, whatever. You score 0, I still love you."
Mhm.
And then he created Kobe.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for everything that you said, and yeah, we just gotta stay in the course, like you said. And what I took, I mean, what I take from this interview, from this podcast, is that mental performance is not only about the game, it's about the human being. Like you have to be a good person. You have to become a better person, better version of you, and that will you know reflect on the court or on the field. So thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. We hope you were inspired. We sure were. And Charles, again, really, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all that.
Thank you for having me, man. Really appreciate it.